Hey everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to look at flex slots in Niv to Light in Pioneer. This might be the largest flex slot video I have ever done, especially about a pretty established deck. There are not a lot of cards in the deck that are stock. Just let me show you. These are the not flex slots in Niv to Light. If you want to see the whole deck, I posted a deck tech and sideboard guide the past few weeks. You should check those out. These are non-flex slots. Of the 80 cards in the main deck, there are 17 flex slots, so only 63 cards that are not flex. And of the 15 cards in the sideboard, there are only 4 non-flex slots, so you need 11 cards to fill those slots. These are the stock cards. Everything else is up to what you decide. So the cool part about this is that there's a lot of ways to tune your deck to be able to beat different metagames. The hard part about this is it's really hard to pick up a 75 and expect it to win if you don't really know, or I'm sorry, a 95 and expect it to win if you don't really know what's going on. But the point of this video is to help you build your own Niv to Light deck. So take these cards and then you're going to be combining them with these cards. So of the 17 cards in the main deck, you can pick from these 31 cards. And for the 11 cards in the sideboard, you can pick from these 26 cards. So let's talk about them. So we're going to start with, not necessarily in order, but Sylvan Caryatid and Ancient Cornucopia. Some decks are playing like 4 Sylvan Caryatid and either 0 or 1 Ancient Cornucopia. Some decks are playing 4 Ancient Cornucopia and no Sylvan Caryatid. So you kind of have to play one or the other. I guess a combination would be fine. I've just never really seen it. But your first step in building your own deck is selecting which of these you would like. Sylvan Caryatid, you can get out earlier and ramp earlier, where Ancient Cornucopia can be answered a little bit easier in it being an artifact, but it allows you to kind of gain life and stay in the game if the game goes long. Dovin's Veto allows us to fight against counter magic and other powerful things and fight it on the stack. Especially since it gets to like stop, Dovin's Veto. It's awesome. No More Lies does a similar thing, but it can be anything. Abrupt Decay, an uncounterable, destroy an on-land permanent mana value 3 or less. This is really good against some hate cards against us. Solid against ward triggers, etc., etc. Fable of Mirror Breaker has become effect slot. People are either playing 4 or 0 Fable of the Mirror Breaker. This card is just an incredible mid-range card and allows the deck to stand on its own without doing its thing and running too many one-ofs and add some consistency. The thing is, playing Fable of Mirror Breaker doesn't really add to what the deck is trying to do besides discarding cards that you don't need, ramping and just providing, a mid-range threat. You'll notice that the rest of these are all one-ofs, maybe like 1/2 of an Omnath. The reason you're playing a lot of these one-ofs is to grab with Bring to Light or to collect with Niv Mizzet. And so Niv Mizzet wants a bunch of different color combinations, like 2 color combinations. So keep that in mind when you select them. You want a bunch of different ones and understand what you might want to tutor out with Bring to Light. So there's a lot of really tough decisions to be made. So you would play Unmoored Ego if you think you're going to be playing against a lot of decks that rely on one card or combo decks or whatnot. Kulagon's Command is a great mid-range card, good main deck artifact hate, allowing you to return creatures to your hand, destroying artifacts, and then discarding and dealing 2 damage is like fine. Maelstrom Pulse is a great catch-all and a good Golgari target. Cosmic Rebirth allows us to bring back permanents with mana value 3 or less. And put them onto the battlefield, otherwise put them into our hand and we gain 3 life. So it allows us to, maybe get Ancient Cornucopias back if they were answered, or up the Beanstalks or things like that, or allows us to put Niv Mizzet back in our hand. It's also instant speed, so we don't really need to show, what we're going to do until, the end of our opponent's turn and then untap and play Niv Mizzet. We get to gain 3 life. It's generally an all-around good card. Just understand it doesn't do anything on its own. It needs a lot of help. Beza doesn't play into the Niv Mizzet plan, but it's a very good card to maybe grab with Bring to Light. Allows us to catch up on life, catch up on mana, gives us blockers, maybe draw a card. It's just kind of like Fable the Mirror Breaker. It's just an awesome mid-rangey card that we can grab with Bring to Light. Extinction Event also doesn't play into the Niv Mizzet plan, but it's a great, when it's good, it's insane. Really good against like mono green or other decks that are playing cards that come back and you really need to exile, especially if you want to keep some of your cards. Elenda is a good Orzhov target. It's also just like a solid life blinker that's really hard to answer. Hostage Taker is decent removal, especially if your opponents are playing some juicy creatures that you might want to cast and steal. Also Dimir target. a Boros target, Nahiri. Having a Planeswalker to grab besides Valky is pretty strong. Also allows us to have artifact enchantment hate, tapped creature hate, while still having some value, and allows us to discard cards that we might not necessarily need because, you know, by virtue of being a toolbox deck, there are some matchups, especially in the main deck, that just straight up aren't going to be good. 2 Omnath has become flex slots, even though it was stock at one point. This is just another solid mid-range card to grab. It doesn't matter with Niv-Mizzet, but can allow us to ramp mana with multiple lands, especially since the deck plays Fabled Passage. Allows us to gain life and is just a solid blocker all around. Deadly Cover-Up is just another board wipe option and is really good if we're playing against decks that are going to have creatures that the deck is either centered around or are good against us, something like Arc-like Phoenix or something. And then Blood Baron of Viscopa, very good against the black mid-range decks. Also having lifelink is really solid, so it kind of fills a slot like Elenda does. So you're going to select 17 of these 31 cards to join the non-flex slots that I've already showed you. And really the only asterisk, you know, with all of this is you pretty much have to play a playset of Sylvan Caryatid or a playset of Ancient Cornucopia, and the rest is free game. Just keep in mind a lot of this is targets for Bring to Light and not necessarily for consistency, and make sure you have a lot of different 2-color combinations for Niv-Mizzet. As far as the sideboard goes, we're looking for a lot of cards as well. We're looking for 11 cards to grab the 4 cards in our deck that are not stock. We're looking for 11 cards on our deck to grab the 4 cards that are stock. So Deafening Silence, very good against things like Phoenix or combo decks like Lotus. Portable Hole, excellent against not only aggressive decks, but some hate cards or Witch's Oven or things like that. Rest in Peace is solid graveyard hate. Mystical Dispute, great for the blue decks and fighting on the stack for 1 mana. Fatal Push, again, for these aggressive decks, you're just having these additional ways to deal with creatures for very, very cheap. 3 Thoughtseize for either control or combo decks. Dovin's Veto we've already talked about. Elenda we've already talked about. Notion Thief is obviously great against decks that draw a lot of cards like Phoenix, and it's a Dimir target, which is pretty relevant. Culling Ritual, destroy each non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less. Add black or green for each permanent destroyed this way. This is kind of a good board wipe, being a Golgari target as well, and being 4 mana instead of 5 is really solid, especially for aggressive decks, because it doesn't really kill our stuff and it kills a lot of their stuff. Casualties of War is a pretty incredible card against mid-range decks. It's also a solid Golgari target. Lightning Helix, this would be the 4th Lightning Helix since 3 of them are stock, is great against aggressive decks and getting through that last bit of damage. You know, being able to gain life and kill stuff. Deafening Clarion is, again, a great board wipe against these aggressive decks. We've already talked about Nahiri, and Yasharn is excellent against Jund Sacrifice, keeping them off their combo. So you're going to select 11 of these 26 cards to join the 4 stock cards in the sideboard, and you're going to select 17 of these 31 cards to join the stock cards in the main deck. Then you have your very own customized for your own local meta Niv to Light deck. There you have how to build your own Niv to Light deck and flex slots analysis. If you like this video and want to see more videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.